All right. Aloha mai kako. Thank you so much for joining us today for the Transfer Tuesday webinar series. We are super excited to have you. My name is Amy McKee. I am the Manoa Transfer Specialist and Coordinator of the KEA program for Leeward Community College. With me today are my colleagues Lori Labarios and Jordan Luton from Leeward Community College. Lori, did you want to do the slide or should I do the slide?
Sure. So our agenda today is we'll be hearing from American Studies, Dr. Jeffrey Tripp, also from UH Mānoa History Department, Dr. Kieko Mattison, and from our Political Science Department, Dr. Jairus Grove. So they are going to speak about their respective programs from UH Mānoa and share information with you as you're considering transferring to beautiful UH Mānoa.
So before we get started, we just wanted to share with you folks a little bit more information about UH Mānoa. The University of Hawaii at Manoa was founded in 1907 and is considered a land, sea, space, and sun grant institution. We offer over 100 undergraduate majors for students to choose from, as well as many graduate and professional degrees, including law, medicine, business, social work, education, and engineering. We are the flagship campus in the University of Hawaii system, a highly ranked Research One institution, NCAA Division I school, and we strive towards being a native Hawaiian place of learning. If you are thinking about transferring to UH Mānoa within the next 1 to 2 years, we'd love for you to consider joining the KEA program. The KEA program is a partnership between UH Mānoa and the community colleges, and we have transfer specialists at each of the campuses to provide proactive academic advising to its students. Additional benefits you get within the program is the waiver of the application fee, option to take UH Mānoa classes before you transfer, and early registration when you start at Manoa. If you would like to join the program, it is free and open to any UH Community College student. You need to have at least 24 transferable credits, a 2.0 GPA, and have at least one more semester before you transfer to Manoa. I'll put the link in the program, and if you're interested, please message me in the chat. And without further ado, we'll turn over to our first speaker of today, Dr. Jeffrey Tripp.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to just pull up my presentation here really quick, and then I'll get started. Okay. Okay, so I'm here to talk to you a little bit about my program and the program I'm representing, which is American Studies at UHM. What I'm going to do with this presentation is just kind of give you an overview of what the department is, what the major requirements are, the kinds of classes we offer, and then I'd be happy at the end to entertain any questions you have regarding American Studies. I don't have a very long presentation, just a few slides, but it'll give us a good overview of the department and what we offer. So the biggest question that people have, and it's a really basic and simple question, is what is American Studies? American Studies is not the kind of major that most people are aware of when they come into an undergraduate program at the university, whether it's Hawaii or other universities around the country that have American Studies programs. But American Studies, to put it quite simply, what it is really it's an interdisciplinary approach to exploring America. And particularly, we look at the history, society, and culture of the United States. We really like to stress the interdisciplinary nature of the major. We really encourage our students actually to take classes in other places around the university, other disciplines, because it enhances the work that we do in American Studies. So it's a kind of holistic approach to looking at the United States, its history, society, and culture. In the program here at the University of Hawaii at Manoa, we are particularly interested in American Empire within the Pacific and Asia. And we kind of look at the ways that this has been built, how it's maintained, and the challenges to the power that America wields in Pacific and Asia region. Most of our faculty specialize in the Asia Pacific region. As you'll see, a lot of our courses emphasize that history, that culture as well. So that big question of what is American Studies really can be answered quite simply in that interdisciplinary approach to looking at America and all things that deal with that history, society, and culture. So let's see if I can advance my slide here. What's a typical American Studies course look like? We offer a very wide variety of different kinds of courses in the department that deal with the US and those aspects of its history and culture. Very broadly speaking, we look at race, gender, sexuality, and indigenous issues. Through these lenses, we look at a lot of different kinds of topics and issues. Really specifically, if we can look at the kinds of courses we have, these are the kinds that we would offer. They're not really limited to all of these things, though. As you can see, it's a lot of different aspects of American history and culture that we look at. A course might have, a typical kind of course might be on militarism or environmentalism or maybe law or religion. But again, it's primarily through that lens, very broadly speaking, of race, gender, and sexuality issues. We really like to, in all of our courses in the undergraduate degree, to emphasize critical thinking skills, also critical analysis and very deep engagement with the topic at hand, depending on what the class is. I specialize in US world issues. I teach a class called US in the World, and I look at the American relationship with the world through history from 1500 to the present. And I really take into account a lot of these different issues in the classes that I teach and look at it from very broadly, these issues like race, gender, and sexuality. So that's kind of what you would kind of expect in a typical American Studies course at UHM with, again, emphasis on the Asia Pacific region. So what can you do if you do decide to become an American Studies major? I think that's a very big and important question. What will the degree get you if you graduate with an American Studies undergraduate degree? Well, it's a variety of things that you can do with a degree. Because of the interdisciplinary nature of American Studies, it really opens doors to a wide range of sectors, including, as you can see here, business, law, politics, journalism, etc. A lot of our students have gone on to work in the nonprofit sector, doing work in nonprofit organizations, the arts, these kinds of things. Really, if you look at the recent graduates that we've had from the department, we have a lot of people that have gone on to be teachers. A lot of local teachers have graduated from our department. We have a lot of students that are in law school, whether it's here at the Richardson School of Law at UH Mānoa or at the law schools around the country. A few of our graduates are politicians. We have journalists as alumni and also professionals in other fields. So really emphasizing that interdisciplinary nature of the discipline, and also looking at ways that we can apply those to a variety of different kinds of positions is really something that we emphasize in the department while our students are taking courses and then graduating with a degree in American Studies. So here's a kind of a chart that we've created that gives an example of the kinds of jobs that our students have gone on to have. This is something I think this is being recorded so you can look at it more closely later. For the sake of time, I'll move on, but this gives you a kind of broad overview of what you can expect from a degree in American Studies in terms of jobs. So what are the requirements if you do decide to become an American Studies major? We have majors that are only majoring in American Studies, but we actually have quite a few double majors. And that's primarily because a lot of the students who come into the University of Hawaii, whether they're coming in as freshmen or as transfer students, aren't quite sure what American Studies is or what to expect. Hopefully this will help with transfer potential majors. So we have a lot of people who are double majoring in American Studies and another major. We have a lot of students who take our courses, as you'll see in a second, and then discover that it's something that they want to pursue. So they'll declare a double major in American Studies. So basically, what we require of our majors and double majors is 6 credit hours of American Studies core courses. Those courses are primarily taken in the junior and senior years. And they have to do with kind of looking at the work of American Studies, and then creating a project at the end of that coursework that is a kind of capstone for American Studies majors. And then we also have 15 credit hours of American Studies electives. These have to be courses that are taken in American Studies. And then we have 9 credit hours of upper division American Studies courses or allied electives. And those allied electives really come from courses that students can take from allied departments like political science and history, for example. We really actually want our students to take classes outside the major to enhance the work that they're doing in American Studies. So it allows them to take courses outside of the department, as I said. So the total would be 30 credit hours for the degree. And we also offer a minor in American Studies. A lot of our students take classes as sophomores or juniors, and they decide that they really like the subject and topics that are being discussed in the courses and the things that they're studying. So they decide to become minors. And it's really simple to become a minor. You just have to take 15 credit hours of upper division American Studies electives. So basically that's any course 300 level or above in American Studies, and take 5 of those or 15 credits, and then you'll have a minor in American Studies. So those are the requirements. But what I wanted to do next was to really give you or allow the perspective of one of our former majors to talk about her experience in the department, because I think, as an instructor, I can kind of give my perspective and why I think the major is a good option. But hearing from one of our students, a recent graduate, I think also offers a good opportunity to kind of get a sense of what the experience is like as an American Studies major. So this is a short video. It's only about 2 minutes long. This is Jacqueline Sakamoto. She's one of our recent graduates, and she'll talk about her experience. Hopefully you'll be able to hear this. I think you will. I turn on the sound, so let's see.
Hi, my name is Jacqueline Sakamoto, and I graduated from the University of Hawaii at Manoa with my BA in American Studies in May of 2019. I am currently a second-year law student at Seattle University School of Law. Finding the American Studies department was a happy accident. I registered for my first course in the department, American Studies 211, Contemporary American Domestic Issues, merely because I needed to fulfill my writing intensive requirements. But when the course began and as the semester went on, I found it to be one of the few classes where I was always engaged, excited to show up, and eager to learn. The following semester, still a little unclear as to what majoring in American Studies meant, I decided to take another course in the department that piqued my interest, and that was Religions in America. Again, I found myself always engaged, excited to show up, and eager to learn. I then realized that I was having these positive experiences because for the first time in an academic setting, I was having conversations that felt important. Not only was I learning about the United States through a lens that I've never had the opportunity to utilize, but I was also learning about me and how I fit into this country's narrative. I also really appreciated the flexibility. This was the first time I wasn't being forced into a certain curriculum. I got to pick and choose courses that surrounded areas of study that were important to me and my experiences as an Asian American young woman who grew up in Hawaii, and all the other layers of my identity. As an American Studies major, I've learned to have uncomfortable but necessary conversations, recognize the strength that comes from marginalized communities, and never be fearful of looking at the familiar from a completely different perspective. These are all skills that will make me an effective advocate as an attorney, and I owe it to the American Studies department. Thank you.
Okay, I think Jacqueline's
Hi.
Jacqueline's experience as an American Studies major and now gone on to law school, I think is quite typical of the responses we get from our undergraduates and their experiences in the department. So what I presented today hopefully gives you a good sense of not only what American Studies is, but the kind of experience you would have as an American Studies undergraduate should you decide to transfer to Manoa as an undergraduate in American Studies. So here's the information for contact. If you would like to get more information, our website is there. And our undergraduate chair is Brandy Nalana McDougall. She can help you with any further questions you have regarding American Studies and the major. So thank you, everyone, for allowing me to offer you this information about American Studies. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tripp. Why don't we open the floor now to our students? If you have any questions about American Studies, please feel free to either add them into the chat or into the Q&A. But I have a question to kind of get us started. So you talked about double majors. What are some popular double major combinations students have with American Studies? Like I'm thinking history and political science definitely fit, but are there others?
Yeah, absolutely. Because of the interdisciplinary nature of American Studies, it's really, we've had majors that are doubling in nursing and American Studies. We've had biology majors in American Studies, and really because people that are in disciplines like that, they're really looking for, because we do emphasize critical thinking, critical analysis, and writing skills, that they're looking for those to enhance those kinds of majors. But as you said, a lot of our double majors do come from history, political science, art, English, places like that.
I love that even like STEM students are seeing this as a valuable double major to have, because and I love Jacqueline's testimony too. I think it really spoke to the power of this degree.
Yeah, I believe Jacqueline was a double major in political science, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Jeffrey, I have a question for you.
Sure.
So because I focus on online students, we're always looking for ways that they can transition their online learning experience at the community college level to a four-year degree. So can you talk to us a little bit about what the American Studies program is looking like right now, online, that sort of thing, and then looking forward to the future?
Sure. Yeah. With the recent pivot to all courses being online, that's the case in American Studies. All of our undergraduate courses are online now. Before all of this pivot to online courses, we did offer a pretty good number of online courses. A lot in the summer. All of our summer classes are online. I happen to teach one section of my American Studies 150 class online. I was doing it before all of this, but I'm teaching them all online now. But what I think is going to happen is that, as things start to return to normal, I think we'll probably have a lot more course offerings online now as we move into the future. We'll, of course, have classes that will go back to in person, but I think that it's probably going to have quite a few more because of the experience we're all having now.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
And any ideas about doing the accelerated class formats or anything like that?
It's things that we're discussing. Yeah. We're always kind of looking at ways to improve the major and the experience for undergraduates. And we have kind of discussed that in kind of thinking about what the future might look like for sure.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a different question. Can you talk a little bit about your graduate program, and like, do you need to have an American Studies undergrad in order to go into this grad program?
Yeah, that's a good question. We actually have, our graduate program consists of a master's degree in American Studies, and we also have a PhD degree in American Studies. And you definitely do not have to have an American Studies undergraduate degree in order to go into the master's degree. I graduated from the department with, I did my PhD, and I actually came from an Asian studies background. I have an MA from the University of Hawaii in Asian studies. So because of my research focus, American Studies kind of fit perfectly, because I was able to kind of look at, use my background in Asian history to kind of complement it with the way that the United States and its, the way that it operates in the world, basically militarily, politically, was part of the work I was doing. So it was a kind of I was able to kind of do both of these things at the same time, and didn't need to have, an American Studies master's in order to get into the PhD program.
Oh, nice. That's really good to know. 'Cause
Yeah.
I know like there are a lot of students who are interested in like Asian studies, as you mentioned, or social work, or
Yeah.
but they might want to do that for their undergrad and then specialize a little bit more, widen their research area in grad
Right.
school.
Mhm.
So Jeff, I had a question.
Sure.
If students at the community college wanted to talk to someone about their classes and applicability and transferability advising, would they see Miss Brandy?
Yeah, she would be the person you want to
Sure.
contact. Yeah. That said, if you went to our website, I have the link there in the presentation. There's a link to our faculty page. If you see somebody on the faculty that maybe mirrors the interests that you have or possibly have in American Studies, you can contact any one of our faculty, or the students can contact any one of our faculty and ask some questions about the department. And then if they became more specific about requirements and things like that, then Professor McDougall would be able to help.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We did get a question from Andrew Wynn. So he was asking, what are the extracurricular opportunities available through your program for undergraduate students, such as scholarships, research, co-ops, civic engagement, internships?
Yeah, that's a great question. One of the things that we're thinking about for our kind of capstone project for American Studies that all of our majors undertake, we haven't instituted this yet, but it's one of the things that we're thinking about, and that is to, rather than just do a research paper, which is kind of traditional way to do a capstone for a degree like American Studies, we're going to try to pivot into offering either the path of doing a research project, or also possibly offering internships and work that would involve the internship or community work, engagement with the community in different ways. So these are things that we're definitely moving forward with now. We haven't quite, as I said, instituted them yet into the major, but I think in the near future we'll be doing that. Aside from that, I think like a lot of departments on campus right now, it's quite difficult with not being on campus, but because we're a smallish major, the students in our undergraduate program and graduate program tend to do a lot of things together because they're a relatively small cohort of students. So the undergraduate and graduate students, they tend to do a lot of things together, either in the department or around campus. And I also say that with our faculty, again, because we're not on campus right now, but under normal circumstances, the faculty is very approachable. That's how I became interested in American Studies. I just wandered into the department one day when I was a master's student, ended up staying for a couple of hours talking to faculty. So yeah, those are the kinds of opportunities, hopefully in the near future, that they will kind of pivot back to being in person on campus in the department.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Any last questions for Dr. Tripp? All right. Okay. If you guys have any questions, feel free to add them to the chat. And then why don't we continue on to our next speaker, Dr. Kyoko Madison. Thank you, Dr. Tripp. Thank you so much again for joining us for our first Transfer Tuesday of the spring semester. We will have the recording available shortly, so if you want to share with your friends, that'll be made available soon. And then also feel free to join us for our next workshop. It's going to be on February 2nd, and it'll have the theater and dance department as well as interdisciplinary studies. We'll stay on if any folks have additional questions, but thank you so much for being here and hope you have a great day.
Yes, thank you, Jairus and Jeffrey. We really appreciate you helping our transfer students.